Hey leaders, welcome back. We are going to, in this segment, talk about leading a circle group, specifically on Sundays, but this will work on Tuesdays as well. And I expect this will be a little bit shorter than our past ones. So thanks for joining us. Let's jump right in. All right, so on a Sunday morning, we've met for the leader meeting at 10:30. We've had donuts at 10:45. We've gone up to worship at 11, and we are now back in the youth room at 11:30-ish. And we have circled up in our groups. We've got name tags on. We're giving kids a fist bump, a high five. We're remembering their name or one thing about them. Those are great ways to help a kid feel like they belong and start thinking about how do we have spaces of belonging that move towards invitation. When a kid feels seen and heard, they're ready to receive that invitation to grow into what the Lord has for them. So when you get in your circle groups, particularly at the beginning, we get those name tags on with real names. So we're gonna ask them, what's the real name you're called? I mean, it can sure be a nickname, but often they like to swap around and do wild things. So say, please put your real name on. And if you want to also put a nickname on, go ahead and do that. That's great. One thing I thought I'd give you a tip on, if a kid is being a rascal and you go to give them a high five or fist bump and they do the whole like, got you, I missed. What I do that has worked 100% of the time, if they miss like that, I say, oh, you don't know how to do a high five? That's weird. Man, do you not know how to do a high five? I know it sounds so silly, but they get so confused. They get so thrown. And then we're kind of in because it's like, I see what you're doing. And they're like, oh, you just turned the joke on me, and they respect it. So if you ever need that, put that in your back pocket. Use that one. All right, so when we get in our circles, it's helpful to give kids expectations of what's going to happen. You can tell them, all right, we're about to have a conversation. There'll be some back and forth. And what happens is in this circle, as we share with each other, we're not going to share outside the circle. We're going to respect everybody's right to be heard and to see and to say some things. You can tell kids, you don't have to say a thing. You can be here, and that's fine. You belong. But you've got to respect everyone else's right to say a thing. So that means not interrupting them. That's one way that we can love each other, and the way that Jesus loved others is to not interrupt. One thing that we say is, it's tough to listen when it's inconvenient for you. And we can affirm that. We can say, I know, it's hard for me too, to listen when it's really inconvenient for me. But this is how we can love one another. So encourage them with that. Also affirm them when they say great stuff. Be like, that's a really great thought. Thank you for sharing. That was so awesome. What does someone else think? You know, we're going to talk about we share the air. So you can give the expectation of like, hey, there's only so much air time that we have here, so much air. So we're not going to go on and on. But if someone has a great thing, you can say, like, hey, that sounds really cool. I'd love to follow up with you more later. But let's encourage folks to say like, hey, there's a lot of people here. There's a lot of pieces of this air pie, and we want all the slices to go around. So help them with that. Next thing, make the circle small. Our goal is to always have, if we can, ideally, we want to have more than one leader per circle. And as our circles are getting bigger and bigger, this really helps. Our ultimate goal, the dream, is to have a 5-to-1 ratio of kids to leader. That may not happen right now, but we do want to, especially if you've got 8 or more in a group and 2 leaders, take that circle and split it into 2. There's a couple reasons for this. One, practically, it's just going to be easier to hear. It's a small room with a lot of people in it, a big crowd, so it's hard to hear. And so making those circles smaller is really going to help. So you're not like shouting across the circle and everyone else also doing the same. It also just makes it smaller. It makes a big room small. And so someone might be more comfortable to share. And it also sets you up as a leader for your voice to be heard. Your voice matters, and you get to mix around every group. One thing I'd say, when you form these circles, just grab kids and say, you're with me. Don't give them the chance to say, don't say like, hey, who wants to come with me? Don't give them that option, just lead. Lead in this case really helps at the middle school level to say, just come with me, you're with me. So make the circle small. If we forget to do that from the stage, go ahead and just say, we're gonna break up and make this smaller. Notice when a kid is off. It can be a really great line to say, if you notice a kid is off, and just say like, hey, you're not yourself, bud. Is there something I should know? Why things are tough right now? It seems like a tough day for you. You'd be surprised how open they may be. And we've had some amazing conversations with kids that have really broken through the ice on someone who's really having a tough exterior when they're like, man, you just saw me. So have your eyes open for that, and don't be afraid to ask, but in a gentle, relationally appropriate way. Just say, man, you don't see yourself. This seems tough. So that's one thing that we can do, and also share with staff if you think it's beyond you. Don't worry about having all the answers. You don't have to know everything. A perfectly fine response is, I don't know. I'd love to talk more about that. Or, you can direct folks to staff, and we would love to continue conversations as well. But say, maybe I'll come back next week. I'm going to think about that. But that is an excellent question. Again, affirm they're asking the questions and that they spoke up and used a voice. The 1/3 rule. The 1/3 rule is We aim to speak 1/3 of the time in group. If we find that we are taking all the air in the group, we are doing the wrong job leading. We want to set these kids up and be okay with silence. Sometimes it's going to be silent. It may be that A word, awkward, but that's okay. We're going to let a kid step in. But don't feel like you need to fill that space. Kids will sense that anxiety in that space. We want to be so relaxed, even with a little bit of silence, or poking and say, look, what do you think? What do you think? So 1/3, aim to speak 1/3 of the time. Lock in, stay on target. I find these phrases work well with the guys. I don't know what works well with the girls, but if they start like squirreling all over the place, a phrase that at least works right now is like, fellas, lock in, lock in, lock in, lock in. Let's go, let's go. And often if you do it playfully like that, they may respond to you. I've found that works. They respond. They will lock in, say, stay on target, guys. We'll have a great time to chat later, but let's lock in right now because I know you've got awesome stuff to say. I want to hear what you say. What you have to say matters. Phrases like that over and over again, that lifts them up into valuing their thoughts, which really do matter. We want to continue to affirm that these kids, their faith matters. And finally, I want to stress this. We trust you as leaders in your group to know what your group needs in the moment. Every group's different. We've got a lot of different ages. There's a huge difference between a 6th grade boy and an 8th grade girl developmentally in the ability to have a conversation. So the questions that we give you, particularly at the end of the message, which is going to have more questions, they're tools. And if a tool doesn't fit the job, don't use it. You have permission to not use it and to sense where your group needs to go. So the tools are there so that you've got a thing that you can go to. But again, if you have a better question in mind, or you sensing like, we just need some side-by-side time right now, that's great. Now, if it always is week after week after week, talk to us. Leaders have talked to us before and say, we need some strategies to help get this group a little more focused, digging in a little deeper, because we know they got stuff to say, but it's just hard right now. And with that said, with that one kid, you're always going to have a kid that just pokes your buttons a little bit. We are here to walk alongside you with that. Often we may have known these kids for a long time, or the families or a sibling. So if you're a new leader especially, there may be some strategies or some context that may really help in that situation. So don't feel like you've got to fix all of that on your own. We are a team. We are here to support you, support one another, because we think, man, we are so grateful that you would lead. And we really think that the Lord has put you in a place, called you to a thing, and he's going to equip you and empower you for it to be that caring adult with compelling faith in their life. And so we want to set you up. You don't have to do it alone. This is not a solo sport. Okay, so to put that all together, our groups, we come in at 11:30. We get in our small groups. We're greeting kids, putting the name tags on, getting their name, forming circles. And then the one last thing I guess I didn't mention was the structure, that we're going to go back and forth 3 times or so with content being shared, circle up. And then I'll say, all right, everybody, now face forward, and get kids, turn those chairs, face forward. Content, and then back to you. Okay, circle up again, circle up, now forward. That is going to be a great time. So thank you so much for leading. We're so glad that we can get in circles. It's because of leaders like you that kids are not just sitting in rows, but they're going to be seen and heard. God bless you. Peace.